All right, folks. Welcome back. So today we are not going to talk about Java versus Rust. As you are aware, on my videos, I usually talk about these two programming languages, and I talk about the strength between these two and weakness between these programming languages, anywhere from security to performance wise. But today we are going to talk about AI specifically, and how big companies like XAI, are switching to Rust and why. And obviously, when you're talking about XAI, you want to bring Elon Musk itself. And we'll also talk about how his approval got XAI to switch to Rust, right? And we'll also talk about where we are right now and where we should plan to be. It really depends on your goal. If you're satisfied with where you are, you know, kudos to you on being satisfied here. Or if you strive more to develop things faster, more secure and all, you might want to switch to us. But here's the thing. Let's just start with this. Um, let's go with this one. So yeah, old you, meaning like the the developer right here, right? This could be you right now. You could be doing some LLM related things on your AI side of things. Now here, one thing to note, and one thing I want to make clear is when I'm talking about AI, I'm not talking about going to ChatGPT and asking chat related questions, right? Like prompting. No, I'm talking about developing AI tools, right? So I'm not going to talk about creating a new chat GPT yourself or creating a new, yeah, no, we're not talking that far too, but something that you can develop by you making use of like the LLMs that you can play around at a ground level. Maybe you could create some, chatbot using those. Maybe you could create some dashboard, that tracks, like the flight tracker, but with the AI, right? And all that along those lines. Right. So, most of the developers obviously are going to use Python because it's one of the first language used during AI development. And we already know Python has all the libraries like AI libraries already there, like PyTorch, TF, or you could even be using Java. The only thing with the Java is you'll have to go with the dependencies that's out there. But Java came into the picture after Python actually in context of libraries. Now here's the thing, right? So nothing bad with that. Using these, several platform were created. Um, Even ChatGPT, all the way to Cloudy. I don't know what they do. I haven't done any research there. Uh, Yes, this was great. Let's say you wanted to make uh 10,000 calls on your AI tool that you have, like a platform, that generates an image, let's say, or videos. You'll slowly see that it starts lagging, and when it reaches like 100,000 API calls, let's say in a minute, you slowly see that you need to start increasing your resources to match up, right? So that's one of the problem that's out there that a lot of developers and the teams are saying that it really depends. Right? If it's just a basic API call or just some basic text, that's fine. But if they are asking you to generate some images, videos, or have you do some complex maths, then at that point, obviously, you want to see the programming language, which is very good at going and reading which is very good at making sure that you are not using too much of CPU or has a better way to read the CPU, right? Um, yeah, so the problem is, the slowness that has been reported by big companies. If you go online out there, you'll see the blogging of how things are changing. And then, I'm not saying it's slow, it can easily handle millions of calls. There are many big companies using this tool, like Walmart, all the way, when you go to the checkout text, you scan things. Behind the scene, there's like Python running it, right? So obviously we are going to handle it. But when it comes to AI, it's a different game because it has to do a lots and lots of calculations. So when there is math involved, there is CPU involved, right? So we want to see which one is the best. Now Python also has this high memory user, so more memory it's using, mean you'll have to buy more resources, right? So more resources mean more cost to you. It can handle at massive scale, meaning it can definitely handle up to millions of things. But at some point, it will like choke off, and then you'll have to keep on increasing the resources. All right, now let's go back to Rust, right? So this is what you've been doing, and we should do it. We should not like skip it. We should always start from the basics ourselves. But let's say if you are comfortable with this, and let's say if you want to grow further, I would suggest that we should focus on learning Rust. Well, if you already know Python or if you already know Java, it will be a lot easier to learn Rust. If you know Java, you can easily learn Rust. And if you have seen my previous videos, I talk about Rust and compare Rust versus Java. So let's say this is new you want it to be new you, right? So and you start learning Rust, you'll see that it's pretty fast. And it also has the AI libraries out there. One thing to note, it's still not mature, right? Those libraries are still not mature in a sense that compared to Python, the libraries are quite less, but they are growing. The trend is very high there. Now the benefit of Rust, right, is it has a speed of C++. C++ level speed is there. So that's one thing. And then the memory safety. See, for Java, we have the garbage collection, right? Garbage collection is a good thing for Java, but then at times everything stops. When garbage collection is happening, everything stops. But at a very grand level, you cannot even milliseconds counts, right? So no garbage collections, memory safety, because there's no need to worry about memory safety. Why? Because it's a system inbuilt system that Rust has focused on. So I would say, the developers here for the Rust, they were quite smart. What they did was went ahead and checked the Python, Java, whatever the programming languages are out there, and they said, hey, you know what? Let's try to copy what's based on this programming language and see if we can do this. So that's how they came up with this pure classes because they are, they really don't have to worry about garbage collecting. They really don't have to worry about JVMs, and all. It's close to the system. It's close to your machine. Closer to its machine means less calculation. Less calculation means you are going to use less CPUs, right? So when you use less CPUs, you are going to save money. Everything is about CPU at this point, right? And it does have massive concurrency. This is something I plan to make a video on the Java versus Rust that's coming. The concurrency part. It's like pretty good actually, right? So now we talked about all this. Um, let's talk about how this should relate to you, right? How this should relate to you. Let's say you are in college right now. I'm pretty sure your professor and all they will be teaching you all this, at the Python side. But you should also think of being proficient on the Rust side of things. Recently, if I can tell, Reddit is also starting on Rust. Toyota, in fact, uses Rust somewhere. I've seen somewhere a job opening for Toyota about Rust. Now, how it relates to you, let me just remove all this. You know, if you love programming just for to develop new things, that's great. Kudos to you again. But you should also think about uplifting your skills at the same time also making sure you make good money, right? So how can you uh, be good at new programming languages is when um, is when you have more skills that's up to the trend. So let's say if I were to say I am a Fortran expert, um, you know, some companies would hire me. Maybe some old banks or old government system is still using this. Yes, they would hire me, but the chances of you getting hired just because you are an expert in Fortran is way less than 1%, right? So what should you focus on? You should focus on ROS-like programming language. So let's start for XAI. So how did XAI switch to ROS? Why did they not choose any other programming language for AI? So I think back in February, XAI team presented their finding to Elon Musk, saying that it's pretty fast, meaning every microseconds count. If your system is down in microsecond, even a microsecond, you are losing your money, right? So losing money is something that Elon Musk won't like it. So that's how he's a trillionaire. That and then the safety part, right? So um, how do I put it? Like safety part in the sense that um, it's not related to any machine, right? So meaning it's closer to the machine. It doesn't have to worry about JVM. It doesn't have to worry about uh, you know like garbage collecting things. And it's just like CPU and GPU level. Um, uh, just thinking out um, to make sure I'm not missing anything here. So yeah, they presented this. I think it was back in February. I'm trying to find it online. I think it was February, but let me see if I can Google it. That's fine. We are not going to Google it, but I think it was this year or some that they presented this to Elon Musk, saying the cost they can save. The downtime of using Rust was way less compared to any other programming languages, right? And then for obviously they need concurrency. Concurrency is the biggest thing um, that is what they focused on. So they had some data on their end. They ran those data against Python and Rust, and they came up with this conclusion that using Rust is going to save them money in the long run. And also Rust did fix a lot of bugs that there were in other programming languages. Down the line, I think we might have more programming languages that will be better than Rust. But for now, I think we should just focus on um, you know what you are learning, but also it's always best to think that if you could really learn Rust or not. If you are in Twitter, I recommend you to follow Francisco. He is pretty good at explaining Rust stuff. He will explain you in a slow fashion, and that will help you, you know, um, learn Rust as well. So one thing I have noticed is right. So AI is not only about smarter models, right? So it's not about smarter models, not at all, right? So AI is not about smarter models. So what is AI is about? If your company, if your team, or if you are trying to learn something in AI, you should focus on the programming language. I'm just gonna say PL. I just don't wanna like type, uh, and I get tired writing on the board to be honest. Um, so you should focus on the programming language that will help your AI to be faster, safe. Rust has the safety mechanism there. That's one thing, and it can easily scale. It is scalable easily. And then one thing to note, right? you also want to make sure that you don't have to scale your system quite often, right? So because what's the use of that programming language if you have to constantly keep on increasing your system? And all of these can be avoided by switching to Rust. Right. So before I conclude, if you are learning AI related tools development through Python, keep going on, but also keep in mind that there are other programming languages that's out there that big companies are switching into. So by the end of the day, big companies do dictate, right, what's going to happen in the market. So and because if big companies are switching, it's obviously because they are going to save the cost, and small companies will follow through, and it will trickle down. So you'll see that effect, more in 5 years. But what happens is if you're just stuck in, let's say, Python or one any programming language, by the time that trend is up, you'll get behind. And I just don't want you to get behind. Take your sweet time over the weekends, or whenever you get time to, learn Rust, or even compare, right? So that's how I am learning Rust. I always compare what learn in Java to Rust, and when you compare things, you learn things easily. And I think that's all I have from my end. And I would wish you a good luck on learning AI related stuff. All right, good luck.